Aloha, anybody out there? Not that I'd be able to hear you anyway. I'm going to start here in a couple of seconds. Alright, we got some chatters. Hooray! Okay. Says I got 5 people watching. That's exciting. I think I'm one of those people. Okay. It's the first time I've done this, so bear with me. This is kind of fun, but also stressful. So I'm trying to run a live broadcast. I have 3 displays. A lot going on right now. Hey! Alright. You are at Google Design School, so I'm going to put up a URL here in a second that you're going to go to so you can log in. Whoa, that's distracting. Alright, that's better. So first of all, I just want to say thanks for being here. If at any time you have questions or comments, you can put them in the chat box, which is a small delay. I don't know if I'll see it, but I will respond to any questions that you might have. The phone number is on the scroll at the bottom. Hopefully you can see that. So you can also call my office if the chat thing doesn't work for you. But okay, let's go ahead and get started. So Google Design School is gonna be, we're gonna use the district ed tech website. So let me zoom in here so you can see this a little better. I need you to go to this URL, bit.ly/FPSTT. So if you can type this part in, we'll be able to get started. And once you're there, it's actually going to take you to the Tech Tuesday page, and then you're going to click on a link for Google Design School. So when you get there, I'll just show you. It's going to take you to the Tech Tuesday page, and then you're going to click here where it says Google Design School, and it will bring you to this page. And we want you to be here because the sign-in is here. And then all the resources that I'm going to discuss today throughout the lesson session are going to, we're just going to work through these one at a time. So I'll give you a second. Let me know if you're having a hard time getting logged in. Signed in. And I'll just want to check the sound here, make sure. I think my mic is working all right. Okay, yeah. All right, we're going to get going here in about 10 seconds. Alright, I think I gave you more than 10 seconds. So the sign-in page, if you want to go to that, just put your name in, put the date, and then where you're from. This is so you can get credit. I know that none of us do this stuff for the credit. We do it for the passion and joy of learning new and exciting things. But if you're one of those people who is all about getting the credit and the glory for the work done, you can do it that way. Okay, so just to kind of give you the overview of what we're doing today, Google Design School, we're going to be talking mostly about 2 things today, using Google Drawings and using Google Slides.
Mrs. Crawford,
it's probably going to happen a lot.
Please, Mrs. Crawford to 209. Thank you.
Okay, so there's announcements here all the time. I apologize before we even get going. So, like I said, we're going to do 2 things. We're going to be using Google Drawings and Google Slides, and we're going to be designing images, pictures, posters, newsletters, stuff like that. So I'm just going to give you the basics, and I'm going to work through some stuff. I'm going to show you how it works, and then if at any time we're going too fast or if you're getting behind or whatever, just let me know. But we're going to start first with layering and nudging. So if you're on the page, Google Design School page, click the link that says layering and nudging, and it's going to prompt you to make a copy of a document. It's called layering nudging, right? So I'm going to go ahead and click make a copy. And all this is doing is it's copying a document that I've already created into your Google Drive. So now you have a copy of this. So what you're looking at here is a gold box. So I want to describe a couple of skills you need to get decent with design using the Google stuff. And to show you that, I'm going to bring up this picture of this keyboard. So the first thing that we need to know is where the control and shift keys are. And they're right here. And we're going to use a couple of keyboard shortcuts to move things up and down in layers. What is a layer, you might be asking? Well, if you click on that gold box and you move your arrow keys, you can move this box around. And if you hold the control button, which is right here, and then press this down key, which is right here, you can move these layers up and down on top of each other. So I'm going to click that gold box, I'm going to push the control key, and I'm going to push down, and you're going to get this picture of me saying, hey guys. And then if you hit the up arrow, it's going to go away. So what you're doing is you're moving this gold box layer above and below the picture of me. And if you keep hitting the down arrow, you're going to get more stuff. And these are all just layers. I'm going to delete the gold box so you can see what's happening here. So these are all different things I've put on the canvas. And this box is just another layer. So whenever you start designing stuff, you're going to want to know how to move stuff up and down around layers. Now the other thing that you're going to want to know how to do is how to nudge something. So if I click on an item here, I can use my arrow keys to move it around, and that's called a nudge. But sometimes, and I think all the time, it actually jumps it around too much. So if you hold down the shift key and nudge, it actually moves it in a much smaller amount. So see this compared to this. And this is going to be beneficial for a couple of reasons later, but you want to have that ability to nudge things in a kind of a finer way, right? So here's a normal nudge, and then if you hold your shift key and move it, that's a more fine nudge. Alright, so I know that kind of sounds stupid, but that's actually the technical term. Now I'm going to go back to the website here. Alright, hey, Lacey's here. Hey Lacey, welcome. Lacey, if you want to get to the resources, if you go to the Tech Tuesday page on the District Tech website, you can get there. I can also, it's this link right here. That'll get you there. Okay, so now I'm going to come down here to where it says canvas size. And I'm going to click this thing that says slides. So this is going to ask us to copy another document. So I'm going to go ahead and make a copy of this. And again, all this is doing is prompting me to make a copy of something that's on my Google Drive, and you'll just make a copy too. So one thing that's really cool about both Google Drawings and Google Slides is that you can change the dimensions of the canvas that you're working on. So with Google Slides, and I do this all the time to make like worksheets and posters and stuff like that. If I'm in a slide like this, and I come up here to File, Page Setup, and go down to Page Setup, which is right here. It gives you 3 defaults, but then below that you have Custom. So if you change this to 8.5, whoops, by 11, and you have this as inches, you can change this to the size of copy paper. So I use this all the time to do like newsletters or posters or even worksheets. Like this is a great way to design hyperdocs, which I'll explain a little bit more in a second. But The reason that I like to use an 8.5 by 11 Google Slide rather than a Google Doc is because the formatting on Google Docs is a lot more restrictive than on slides. I can put text boxes or word art or anything wherever I want it on a slide, whereas with Docs you're limited to wherever the text lines are, and it's hard to fit stuff in wherever you want it to go. So a good way to practice this would be go to this slide and just come down here to page setup and start making stuff different. Now if I want this to be 11 by 8.5, let's say I want landscape size, I can do the same thing. And now I have a landscape size copy paper this way if I want to design something that looks that way. So that's important to know whenever you want to start creating stuff that you might print off, or you want kids to do, I don't know, I hate to use it just to design worksheets, but it would be a good way to get down with that, right? Okay, so that's why slides is the bomb. That's like reason number one, like slides is the bomb. But now I'm going to show you a couple of things. Well, actually, I skipped something. Let me go back to changing the canvas size on a drawing. This one's super easy. If you're in Google Drawings, you want to change your canvas size, down here in this bottom corner, you can just drag this thing all over the place. But here's a little pro tip for those of you who want to do like, if you want to do something like your Twitter header, your Facebook header, if you want to do like a Google Classroom header, I design all those graphics just right here in Google Drawing by knowing the pixel dimensions. So if I'm in Drawings and I go File, Page Setup, and if I know the pixel dimensions, I go Custom, change inches to pixels, and I think like a Twitter header is something like 1000 by 200 or something like that. So it looks like trash now, but if I delete all this stuff, I can make a custom pixel size anything I want. So I've been at conferences, and this tip is amazing. You can just go on the internet, ask Google, what is the pixel dimensions of a Facebook header? And then you can design your own Facebook page graphics for like your class or just your personal one if you want to use it that way. And so if you see anything that I design that looks kind of like that, it's because I just do all this stuff in Google Drawings. So, and it's if you want to post like your kids' art on Instagram, you can also like get the dimensions of an Instagram post, which is just 800 pixels by 800 pixels. It's just a square. So that's another thing that I've used this for before. Okay, we're gonna move on to word art and fonts. So this is usually the thing where people start to get the big oohs and the ahs, like, oh wow, I didn't ever realize you could do things like that. So I just want to point something out here. Let me zoom in on this picture. So this graphic right here, this Google Design School graphic, let me zoom in on it. I just made this with Google Drawings. You'll notice I'm doing some pretty cool stuff here. I have drop shadow. I have fonts that have multiple colors. And that's just because I'm using word art rather than the pixel art, the text boxes that are the default. So I'll show you what I mean by that. I'm going to click this link here that now says word art and fonts. You can just copy along with me if you want to try this. So I'm going to make a copy of this now, and you're going to see two word marks that are the same, that say the same thing, but they're actually very different. And that's because this one is word art, and this one is a text box. And that's only important because you can't do a whole lot with a text box, but with word art you can do all sorts of things. So I'll show you. With word art, you can drag this, you can constrain it, and stretch it out in a bunch of different ways. With a text box, you can't do any of that. All you're going to end up doing, if you grab those little blue boxes, is you're just going to make your text box larger. So you see the difference there. Now why this is cool is because earlier when I said I do all my designing with drawings and slides, you can, without having to change font size, or if you don't really care about that constrainment, you can make the words fit into any dimensions that you want, right? So the other really cool thing about word art that beats text boxes is if I click on this and then I come up here to the paint bucket, I can change the color that way. I can change the whole word. And another thing that the word art defaults with is an outline border that goes around all the words. So I can also change that by going up here to the pencil, and I can pick any color. And that might seem kind of stupid right now, but if you know how to manipulate the borders in the word art, you can start making things that look like this. So what I have here is just a word art layered. Now you remember earlier when I talked about layers and knowing how to nudge things and how to move things around in layers? This is just 2 layers of word art that say the exact same thing. But if I switch the layers around, I can make them look different. So I can give a drop shadow effect. And that's the first thing that we're going to do here, is we're going to give words a drop shadow. So this word art is just a... I'm going to delete the black so you can see how I do this. I'll make this one. So whenever you create a word art, you'll have something that looks like this. I'm just going to do a keyboard shortcut here. Control D. Control D is the duplicate shortcut. And you might know Control C, Control V. This beats that up. So if I push Control D, it's going to just immediately make a copy. I'm going to get in my paint bucket. I'm going to change the color. And then I'm going to use my nudge controls to move this to where it looks like I have a drop shadow. So I'm going to hold Shift and use the arrow keys on my keyboard. And now I have a drop shadow. And you can do even a little bit more with this by knowing how to manipulate the border. So if I come back up here and I turn my border into a black border, and let me make it a pixel width of 2, now I have a really nice looking outline that goes along with that drop shadow. And you can do a lot of things with this once you know how to make it work for you. For example, you could do multiple layers. So let me do, I want to get rid of that. I'm going to duplicate this again, and then I'll put a white layer on top. White probably isn't good here. But you can kind of get crazy with it. So, you can make all kinds of kind of really awesome fancy things here. I am going to show you a couple of other things that you can do with word art. The other thing that I really like about word art is that if I just do a drag of my mouse and highlight both of those boxes and then come up here to the font, I can just click on a different font and switch the whole thing. So if I want this to just look different, I can just literally scroll down here through all the fonts that I have loaded, and I can now keep my drop shadow intact while checking out the ways that these are going to make different fonts look. Now, the other thing I want to talk about here while we're here is fonts. So that's how you can pick your default fonts, but something that a lot of people don't know is that if you come up here into your fonts, and I have like, I feel like thousands of them, but if you go all the way to the bottom where it says more fonts, you can, like, I swear this doesn't end. There is an endless, I'll say it, endless amount of fonts that Google will let you pick from. So like the other day I was making a thing for Tech or Treat. If I stopped in and gave you one of those Tech or Treat prizes, I made all that stuff just with playing around with Google Art, but I wanted like a Halloween one, so I think it was called Creepster. There it is. Yeah, so that's when I added that one. My favorite one is called Luckiest Guy. If you've ever gotten a certificate from me or something, I probably used this font. So, you know. Okay, sorry, we got a question here. So, oh, if you're on a Mac, it's going to be Command. My bad. That is true. You need to use Command, sub that in for Control. Are copying and pasting the same as duplicating? Yes. It just takes 2 keyboard shortcuts and turns them into 1. So, instead of Control C, Control V, if you're working on the same canvas and you want to make a copy, all you got to do is hit the Control button, push the D key, and it will immediately make a copy without you having to have both shortcuts. So it's a very, very it's a kind of a time-saving technique for me. I use it all the time now. I actually learned that at the Google Summit a couple weeks ago. So that's how you get all those fonts, and that's how you can change the color, do stuff like drop shadow, get those outlines and borders and things to kind of make art that looks a little bit better. So if you see, like if I go back to this guy right here that I designed, all this is utilizing drop shadows, multiple fonts. I even do drop shadows on shapes sometimes, kind of like with this YouTube button that I did here. But that's all any of this is drop shadows and a variety of layers that I use while just kind of messing around in Google Drawings. So, all right, next thing we're going to talk about is vector art. And this is, I love to do this with students because once kids know that they can do this, they can kind of go crazy with it. And what we're going to do is we're going to kind of abuse something. I'm going to close these tabs. Give me a second. We're going to abuse something called a polyline tool. And we're going to use it to make a picture copy of just about anything that we want to make our own version of. So I like to use, as an example, designing your own taco truck. So I just went on clip art in here. I went to insert image and I searched for a taco truck. I just found a generic looking one. And quite honestly, this picture looks like trash. I would not use this in any kind of publication. But if I want something that looks like this and I want to put my own spin on it, I can do that very easily. We're going to do something called a polyline tool. So up here across the top, we're going to go to line and we're going to hit the drop down arrow. And we're going to where it says polyline. Now just to show you how polyline works, polyline will allow you to draw a shape with as many segments as you want until you get to the beginning where it will snap. See how it snaps there? Snapping back into place. So once you enclose that shape, it will actually fill in with color. Now it's fillable. I can make it, color it however I want. I can also take that transparent, make the border transparent so it doesn't have that outline either. So knowing this, what we can do is we can take the polyline and we can wrap it around any shape that we can find on the internet. So I want to make a taco truck, but I don't like this pixelated JPEG file. I want to make vector art. That means I'm going to use a digital tool to create art that I can use for any number of projects. Alright, so once it snaps into place here, now I have the rough outline of my taco truck. Now I'll just come in here with the other shapes and fill in some of the other details that I might have missed. For example, the wheels. I'm just going to draw a circle there, and I'm going to control duplicate and move the circle over here. And I will now delete that picture out of there. Actually, I won't delete it yet because what I want to do is get a few more of these details in here. So I'm going to use my layering shortcut to bring this picture back to the top. And I'm going to start drawing some of these other details. I'm going to color them in here in a second. So there's going to be my window. I'm going to add this little table counter space here. I'll also put this window. Okay, so to kind of show you how all these pieces can come together, if I delete this out, now I have all the elements from that other picture, but now it's not an actual photo. I can put my own spin on it. So now I can take all these colors and start filling in this stuff to look however I want it to. So give me a second while I color this guy in. Okay. And I'm gonna polyline in a little windshield here. And you'll find yourself doing this, starting to kind of put your own spin on things. And this is when it kind of gets fun to do in your class. on a couple other things here I want to do. There we go. So now I'm going to start just using some of these other skills that I know about. I'm going to insert a word art, and I'm going to call this the Taco Rocket. And let me get a font that I like. And we'll just call this guy the Taco Rocket. I'll put it right here. Again, let me get a color on this. And then the polyline also allows you to kind of just do some goofy stuff here. So let's say maybe I want to put a rocket on the back of this. So I'm going to draw a little fire there. I'm going to make the outside transparent. I'm going to make the, I don't know, some sort of jet engine turbine, I guess. And then I'll just duplicate this to make the hot part of the flame. We'll do it yellow. Okay, and so now I have a literal taco rocket. And as long as I know how to use some of these Google tools, I can start making all kinds of fun stuff. I just need to start with a picture that I can find in clip art. So the final step here would be, after you have kind of gotten your composite image together here, I'm going to take out all these borders after all. Okay, so now that I have all the pieces together, I'm just going to do a quick click and drag over all those elements. And I'm going to go arrange and group, and now this is one shape. So I can copy that and paste it into a Word doc. I can copy it and paste it, move it to something else, or I can constrain or stretch it out all as one thing, which can end up making it look stupid, but also can offer you some flexibility that you can't get. Now the neat thing about using Google Drawings for this is that it will be an SVG file, which might not really mean that much to you. But what's kind of cool about it is it won't ever get pixelated, and you can't spread it out so far that it's going to degrade the quality of the colors or anything. You can constrain it to the point that it looks bad, but I cannot drag this thing to pixelation because of the way that it's been drawn. So if I save this as an SVG, it's never going to get stretched out so bad that I can't use it.
Timothy Todd, if you're in the building, can you please have your teacher call the office? Thank you.
Hope that kid finds where he's going. Okay. So that's vector art. There's a lot of uses for that. I do it all the time for drawing my own graphics from posters. I don't like to say to use it to kind of skirt around copyright, but a lot of times you find a picture even that's free to use that maybe has an element that you like. So for example, when I did Tech or Treat, I made a little candy pumpkin holder that was a vector art. I could find pictures that freely available to use, but they had backgrounds in them. They were pixelated. They had weird elements of things I didn't like. So I just really wanted to make my own and put my own spin on it. So that's what I did. Some other examples of things that I've done. If you've ever seen, I created this logo here and I put it on just about everything I do. I just made that as vector art in a Google drawing, and then I just uploaded that Hornet from the official work that Karen Stevens sent that to me. So now I have my own logo that I just used Google Drawings to design. So you can start doing stuff like that too, and it's really great to create a brand for your classroom or to create graphics or images that are unique or original to the kind of stuff that you want to be showing off for your class. It's kind of cool to build a identity or a brand to make yourself unique. And it's good for kids and all that stuff too, so because as students build portfolios and document the things that they're working on, creating their own art and having the ability to do stuff like that's pretty valuable. Okay, so we're not running up on time, but I want to move on. We only got about 10 or 15 minutes left. So next thing is we're going to talk about Google Slides, and we're going to talk specifically about something called Master Slide. Master Slide is super duper awesome. Okay, so bumping or nudging. So let me go over that real quick for Leslie here. So what it means if you're nudging, it means you're clicking on an object, and you've got the blue outline, right? And I can move it with my arrows. Now, that's a basic nudge. If you hold down the shift key and do it, you get a much finer nudge. And the reason that you want to know how to do that is for stuff like drop shadow. So if I want to do a drop shadow here, all I got to do is hold shift and move it down to 2 down and 2 to the right, and now I have, is that what you're talking about by bumping? And layers. Oh, you move stuff around on layers. So to do layers, pardon me, I'm chewing gum and I shouldn't be. You're gonna, if you're on a Mac, hold down the command button, not control, that's on a Windows. Hold down command and push the up and down keys, and you can cycle through layers. So the up arrow is going to bring you to the top, the down arrow is going to take you to the bottom. Hopefully that answers that question for you. If not, let me know and I'll try to cover it again. Okay, so bumping. Maybe I'm not clear on exactly what you're looking for. Tell you what, I will come back to it. Let me get through the Master Slide stuff, and then I'll try to come back at the end and cover it, okay? Alright. It should. One thing you might want to make sure that you're doing is you have the thing you want to move. Command and Shift. Katie says try Command and Shift. It always works with Command for me, but maybe there's something going on there that you could try. Alright, so I'm going to go back to Master Slide. So I'm going to click here and take you to a newsletter template that I use. I don't actually use this, but I created it for the purpose to show it off at a conference. And it's a good example of what you can do if you know how to do Master Slide. So this is a newsletter. It's an 8.5 by 11. Thank assist to Katie. Way to go, Katie. You rock. So what we got here is just a Google slide, but there is a bunch of mysterious things happening here. And what you'll notice on this is if I click and I try to highlight all the content on this slide, and then I hit delete, only some of it deletes. And that's because I created a template by editing what's called the master slide. So I'm going to put all that back on there for right now. And the way that you get to a master slide is you come up here to view, and the third option is master. To explain what this is, I'm actually going to go back to the slides themselves. Whenever you're making a slideshow and you want to add a new slide, you hit this down arrow, you have this series of templates that are pre-made for you. You can actually edit what's on these slides, because if you edit what's on the template, you won't be able to change that in the slideshow itself. It'll basically stick all that in the background. So if I go view master, anything I put on the slides here is going to stick into the background. So I can put anything over the top. And the reason that I like to do this, a couple of reasons. One is it's really great if you design documents where you don't want to change the whole thing. Maybe you're going to update information on a timely period, so it's great for newsletters. Because what I can do is I can leave a space here to put the date in. I can leave a space here to put like a news story or a video or something. And then I can do the same thing on page 2. I have a big blank spot. I can put anything in here. And when I go back to the slide presentation itself, all I've done is I've created these pieces of content that I can move around. So now I'm like a real big boy graphic designer. It's like I have my template out and I can just kind of slide all this stuff around and figure out the best way for it to be on this page. The other nice thing about using slides for something like this is if I send this out as a newsletter, people can just click on these videos and they'll play directly in here. So like this 2-minute tech that I did, I can just have it play right in here if somebody wants to hit the play button. Same thing with the Supersonic Teacher Award, all that kind of stuff. But all this is layers of text sitting on top of what is essentially a background back here. Because you'll see I can't highlight any of this stuff. So, like I said, it's really great for templates. I'm going to just show you how to edit this really quickly. Let me move all this stuff back where it was first. So, View, Master. And let's say I want to make a new slide that's basically going to be a template. So, I'm going to click down here on this one. I'm going to actually delete that out. Let's say I want, in the background, I want a picture of something. So let me go to Insert Image, and I will search. Whoa, they changed the way you insert pictures. That's a little different. It must be brand new. I want a keyboard here. Okay. So I'm just going to use this as a background. I'm going to drag this in. Okay. So to show you how that worked, if I come back into my slides presentation itself, add a new slide, now that's going to be a template. And if I open it up, I can't move that picture. Right? It's stuck in the background. So I'm actually going to move on to the next thing to show you how that can be even more valuable in a classroom. This will be really great for any of you guys that do stuff like HyperDocs, or you do worksheets and you design those things in Google Docs. Now you'll never do this in Google Docs again, because now you can do indestructible HyperDocs, which are worksheets that you can do online that kids won't be able to delete all the work. So what typically happens when you make a worksheet for your kids online, at least it happened to me all the time, you'd have kids come in here and, let me change this back. This should have some stuff on it. There we go. I want to restore this one. So what'll happen is kids will, like, I did all this work and I designed and I put all this cool stuff in here, and I've taken my time to make something that's really going to be great in my class, and then you got your kid come up and they highlight and they delete it and they say, oh, sorry, Mr. Howard, my paper's gone, I can't do the work. And so you're like, oh, geez, okay, now Control-Z back till you have everything back, or go back up here and click to find the old copy of the thing. So, well, you don't have to do that anymore, because I've just made the same worksheet down here, except anything that I don't want the kids to type on, I just push it in the background. So, they can't click on this, the title, they can't click down here, they can't click on this picture, they can't click on any of the questions for the text, they can't delete any of that. The only things they can click on are the places where I need them to do stuff. So for example, they click up here, a box opens up, and now they can type in it. They click here, they can type in it. They click here, they can type in it. And how that works is, I went into the master slide. I designed my worksheet here first. Anything I need kids to click on, I put into the slide itself. And get rid of all this stuff. So they can still click on, for example, this video. They could delete it, but hopefully they won't. Now they can watch this. This down here, this link. Now they can click on this and go read this article. The idea here is that you're creating interactive elements on top of a static background, so they can only interact with the things that are intended to be interacted with. And here's another little pro tip for this. When you click on these are just table cells. So if you come up here, insert table, and do a 1x1 table, and get a box that looks like this, and you can move that and change it into whatever shape you want. Now the reason that I like to do a table cell rather than a text box is because a text box requires you to double click to enter text, but for whatever reason, a text box only requires you to click once, and then you can immediately start typing. I don't know why that's like that, but this will prevent kids from clicking on it, start typing, nothing comes up, panic, freak out, come bother you. Now they don't have to do that anymore. They click on here, they start typing the answer to the question. And so it makes it just a little more efficient and a little easier for them to use and answer the questions as you put them in on your interactive elements on top of your static background. So that's how I create indestructible hyperdocs. And if you know anything about hyperdocs, all they are is just a place where you've linked a variety of multimedia sources back to something that you want your kids to explore throughout by clicking and watching videos and reading different articles, stuff like that. Okay. Oh, one thing I forgot to cover, I kind of sped through it because I wanted to make sure we covered everything else, is using busy backgrounds. So just to show you what I'm talking about, if I go back to my newsletter, my background here is this keyboard picture. You can kind of see it here. So sometimes it's kind of tough to put text on top of something like that, so we kind of get boring with our design and we get afraid to use backgrounds with kind of busy designs. Jessica, no, there is no way to do that in docs unless you insert Google Drawings, which is a really roundabout way to do it. You can't lock any parts of a doc, and that's why I like to use master slides, because it's the best way to do that. That would be the best way to put it. So I'm going to go back here to my busy background here in transparent shapes. I'm just going to show you what I'm talking about. So a lot of times when I do poster projects with kids, they want to use, or if they want to do a slides presentation, they want to use these insane backgrounds that have terribly busy, ugly, colorful graphics, but they want to put their text right on top of it. And the problem with that is it's almost impossible to read, and it looks like garbage. So one thing I started teaching my kids to do in these cases was to use a transparent shape layer and put it behind the text. And you'll see what I mean. I'm just going to move this one that I made here and behind that. And what it does is it makes that text not blend so poorly into the background. Adds a little bit, makes it pop out a little bit, makes it not stick into these other colors. Now all I'm doing here is I'm going up here to insert. I'm finding a shape that I want my text to be on top of. In this case I use rounded rectangle. I drew it over the top of my text area like this, and then the default would be like, I don't know, it wouldn't be black, it would be like this kind of blue, right? And it would probably have an outline like this. So what I need to do is, first of all, I need to move that layer behind the text. If you're on Windows, Control and down. And then I'm going to change this color. And here's another thing most people don't know about doing design with Google, is if you go to Fill Color and go to Custom, it's the only way to get a transparent color. So now I'm going to pick the color that I like. Let's say I want to do like this kind of green here. This second slider is a transparency meter. So I can make that transparent enough that it will shield the text from the background, but also you'll be able to see the background through it still. So now I have, the distinction's a little better here. Let me remove that outline. So that's how you can do a transparent layer and just lay your text over the top of it. And that'll make it, I don't know, I always feel like it's a good way to reason with kids, because they always want to put crazy backgrounds on their slide presentations. So let them do their crazy backgrounds, busy backgrounds, but say, hey, if you want people to be able to read it, do something like this. It's also, I do this in newsletters, so if you go back to my newsletter, that's exactly what I got going on here. View master. This is just a transparent layer on top of a busy background. That's all I'm doing there. So that's a design thing that I kind of do all the time whenever I create my own graphics. Okay. So these things are scheduled to go from 3:45 to 4:30. It is 4:29. So I'm going to hop back over here on the screen. I know I went super fast. That's how these things typically go. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about, Simone. She said busy backgrounds. Yeah, they got like lightning bolts, or they got every Pokemon in the thing on there, and that's what their picture is going to be. Like, come on, people. What are you doing? So, I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm live. I got to talk to you later. People bothering me. People, I'm trying to work here. So, what I was saying was these things go super busy and they're super fast. So I usually will wait till 4:45 at the end of these things for people if they have questions, stuff like that. So feel free to chat with me in the chat box. Let me know if you have any other questions. If you want me to expand on this stuff further, I'd be happy to come meet with you, your plan time in your classroom. Anything that would work for you, just let me know, and I'll come in and I will give you a one-to-one too, so, and you can count that for your tech hours as well. Before we finish, and I just want to say again, thank you. I have 10 people watching right now, so that's a lot better than we did on Tuesday. Let me know if you like this, if you would like to have more of these. I could do these a lot more frequently than the actual Tech Tuesdays in person, which I don't want to stop doing those. But yeah, let me know in the evaluation. So I'm going to come back to the design page over here. If you could just, before you finish today, evaluate this session, let me know what you thought of it. And if you'd like to see more of them, let me know in there as well. But for now, I just want to say thanks for watching. Again, just let me know. And I will be there to help you do whatever you want to do. I like this format too, y'all. Thank you so much for coming. I do. I don't know. I thought it was fun. I thought it was easy. I think it's cool. So let's do more of them. And having a hard time ending this thing. So I'm just gonna say peace. Goodbye. I'm still here. So again, if you got questions, let me know. Okay, I'm gonna come back because there's questions. So, it says here, I know what's happening. You're moving it below the jelly beans too. Like, so if you move the jelly beans, it would still be there. So I'm gonna, if I come back to the top here, you don't want to go below every layer. So right now it's below everything. I'm gonna hit up once. Whoops, I need to put the actual screen up, you guys. My bad. Here we go. So you're working with 3 layers here. If I bring it all the way to the top, it's on the top layer right now. Control and down is going to move it below the word art. control and down one more is going to move it below the jelly beans. So think of it like a deck of cards. If you have the King of Hearts on the top, and you move it down one card, you move it down another card, it's going to be behind both those cards. So we want it to be between the two cards. Like there. Hopefully that is what's happening. Because it's just knowing how layers work. Are you sure you're bringing it to the top? So a good way to test it would be if I turned this color solid. So right now it's on top. If I do control and down, it'll go down below the word art. I do control and down one more time, it's below the jelly beans. Yeah, there are some amazing things you can do with layering. I've done some pretty cool animation projects with kids, so if you want to do something like that, it'd be a good idea. If you know how layers work, you can set like composite pictures and things like that. So it could be pretty fun. Oh, hey. Alright, so I don't know if anybody's still there, but I'm just doing an experiment. See if I can destroy the universe. I'm doing a Periscope and a YouTube Live at the same time. See how that works. So this is my setup. Just talk about what's happening here right now. Got my YouTube Live going right here. Oh wow, that's weird watching yourself like 3 different ways. This is the stuff I'm showing people right here. I'm talking to Periscope YouTube Live, so don't you be listening in. And then I'm using this thing called OBS Studio right here. And this allows me to produce my live show while I'm going. So just thought it'd be cool to do a live stream of how I'm doing a live stream using 2 different formats. They're working very different ways. Another thing, anybody that checked out the YouTube Live Google Design School today, let me know what you thought. I thought it went really well. I'd like to do more of those. They're pretty easy for me to do. I think they're easier for you guys to get those at your, just sit in your classroom and sit and get those there. So I'm going to sign off on this Periscope, but I would like to say the universe did not explode while I did a live stream of a live stream. So we got that going for us. And welcome world. I'm gonna let this one go. See y'all later. And that goes for you too, YouTube Live. I'm closing this stream off. Let me know if you got any questions. Email me.